Are you sure?
Here's the 30-second lesson on what legends know. Never ask a bride why she's getting married. Don't wear a skirt on a windy day. Deodorant is not a shower. Don't sniff chili flakes. And don't forget, saving is not investing. Legends don't just save, they invest in mutual funds. Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
An important event in our politico-strategic history passed with somewhat less debate than it deserved. It was the BJP's attack not merely on the deep state, now seen as a formidable, undefinable, and a mysterious pan-national demon, but also on the US State Department. When the BJP's official Twitter, X handle posted a 16-part thread attacking the US deep state for launching an all-out war on India and its Modi government, you would have been inclined to say, it's okay, Trump is the new president, he's railing against the same monster, the same deep state, so it's just as well that the BJP also joins in. It's always a good policy to be on the winning side. Except the 13th of these posts went beyond the deep state and accused the US State Department of leading this conspiratorial cabal. And the key lines, and I quote from the BJP's tweets, "It has always been the US State Department behind this agenda. ... The deep state had a clear objective to destabilize India by targeting Prime Minister Narendra Modi. ... The French investigative media group Mediapart revealed that OCCRP is funded by the US State Department's US aid. In fact, 50% of OCCRP's funding comes from the US State Department." Quotes closed. There are specific mentions of the Pegasus controversy, several exposés on the Adani Group, and also obviously references to other deep state figures like George Soros, Rockefeller Foundation, etc. The substantively new thing here was the BJP launching a direct and unqualified attack on the US State Department. Please note that Mediapart is also the hard-left French platform that led the investigations into the Indian Rafale deal, providing the Congress and Modi critics much ammunition to attack him. So far, for the BJP, it might have been part of some French left deep state plot to undermine India and the Modi government. Now, it's a credible ally. That irony just died isn't a phrase that works in hard politics. Here, irony dies and resurrects, like the serial storyteller of Vikram or Betal. In this latest avatar, Betal Mediapart story was actually quite damaging to the US establishment. It isn't just too clever by half, but also cynical in the extreme to be funding without disclosure investigative journalism across the world while also keeping the veto on appointments of key personnel and choice of key issues, as revealed by Mediapart. Cynicism, however, must be the core requirement for becoming a superpower. Equally, a political party was within its rights to question it if it felt its government was helped by this US government-funded initiative. Complications, however, arise at a more substantive level. It isn't the first time a ruling party in India has attacked the foreign hand, or specifically the US. Usually the foreign hand meant the American hand. The Congress did so routinely in the Indira era. In the early 1970s, as Mrs. Gandhi came under pressure from the opposition, she and her party routinely accused their opponents of being CIA agents. It went on into her term after the emergency also. It was then that Rajya Sabha member Pilu Modi, who had been a founder member of the Swatantra Party, walked into the house one day wearing a badge saying, "I'm a CIA agent." Later, Rajiv Gandhi and even P.V. Narasimha Rao attacked America routinely when under pressure. Rajiv, with his Nani Yaad Kara Denge speech at Boat Club, loosely translated, "We will make them remember their grandmothers." Basically what it means is, we'll teach them the lesson of their lives. And Rao in a parliament intervention. I will tell you a sidelight about that Rao intervention, because later the MEA tried to assuage the US Embassy by dismissing it as a slip of the tongue. In a conversation with some of us editors, a furious William Clark Jr., the US ambassador at that time, asked, Was his tongue slipping for 15 minutes? So far, so good, but those times were different. This was India's Cold War anti-Americanism. Now we live in a different era when three successive Indian prime ministers, Vajpayee, Manmohan Singh, Narendra Modi, and 5 US presidents, that is Clinton, George Bush Jr., Obama, Donald Trump, and Biden, they've all hailed ours as the most consequential bilateral relationship of the 21st century. India and America now hail each other as strategic partners, if not allies. Some lines spoken at Modi's official state visit to Washington in 2023 are relevant here. Modi said, and I quote, our dash dash dash, I'm compressing it, our important decisions have added a new chapter to our comprehensive and global strategic partnership. Quotes closed. Biden had described this as and I quote now, Biden has described it as a partnership that is among the most consequential in the world, that is stronger, closer, and more dynamic than any time in history. And this, again, from the 6,500 word joint statement, of which I will share a link with you, this was a cherry on the cake, or maybe kalakant if you so prefer. And I quote from it, no corner of human enterprise is untouched by the partnership between our two great countries, which spans the seas to the stars. This gives context to the BJP's attack on the US State Department now. Of course, diplomatically, both sides maintain at the highest levels there is no problem with the relationship. So how do two great powers who mutually and repeatedly hail each other as a most vital strategic partner reconcile this contradiction? That the Congress party has now latched onto this by accusing Modi government of ruining a vital strategic relationship to protect his friend Adani is just another in this season of ironies. Given the Congress party's traditional anti-Americanism, which Manmohan Singh had to defy and fight for that epochal nuclear deal. In any case, it's the opposition's job to prey on the government's contradictions, but how does the government balance this without sacrificing the relationship it says it values? The answer won't be as simple as saying that the party has its own view and the government will keep on doing its thing. India and America may have become friends, but anti-Americanism always survived in popular opinion and it still endures. Lately, it's been turbocharged with Trump railing over his deep state's many conspiracies and woven into it the curious new sex appeal in the idea of de-dollarization, something Minister Jaishankar has tried to squash unambiguously more than once. So strong is our anti-Americanism that many of our smart and influential people are seduced by the idea of a BRICS currency, never mind if it will be just another name for the Chinese yuan. It goes without saying that anti-Americanism is probably the safest and sexiest ideology to flaunt. It takes my mind back to an article from the May 1999 issue of Smithsonian Magazine. In that article, two authors wrote about Philippines' relationship with America and how public opinion in the Philippines veered between affection and outrage about America. And that's where they say that they saw in demonstrations, protests in the Philippines, protesters carrying placards saying, Yankee go home, but take me with you. I will share a link of that 1999 article with you. No, definitely. India is not a treaty ally with the Americans as the Philippines have been. India also does not have the history with the Americans that the Philippines had. So we can leave that as an aside. This is much more a relationship with equals as it was even during the Cold War. Doubts and disputes will arise in the closest partnerships. As Biden winds up now, each side thinks it caught the other with their hands in the cookie jar. The US on the Panu issue and India is now paying back on OCCRP. How can you do such a thing to a friend? That's the question each is asking the other. Could the Modi government and BJP have handled it differently? Would they have spoken in a different language had Kamala Harris won? You can speculate. My point would instead be, has the US handled this much better? See some of the statements of Ambassador Eric Garcetti. Was it really necessary or diplomatic for him to talk of the red lines on the Panu issue when India was already responding to it very differently than to Niger, Canada? Or his statement to the Times of India that the US made a distinction between talk and acts of terrorism. His country knows as well as ours how terror talk can turn into action. These were among the most insensitive words spoken in India by a US ambassador in 3 decades. Friends can deliver hard messages to each other, but softly and discreetly without any public shaming. We acknowledge that his Bollywood dancing moves are way better than the bhangra we saw from Justin Trudeau, even if their costumes seem tailored by the same guy in Palika Bazaar. Dancing to Bollywood music or dholak is no way, however, to win the hearts and minds of Indians in the 21st century, especially not when you are schooling them on the difference between terror talk and action. No one individual, institution or action is to blame for this, but this relationship has gone into a stressful phase towards the last months of the Biden administration. The BJP, I would guess, is responding in kind, definitely not without checking with its government, and they wait for Trump. And also because we're talking about politics now, politics and diplomacy, this is a good moment for me to plug my old friend and sparring partner, Manishankar Iyengar's book. In fact, this is the second volume of his memoir. And as he says, this is a lot more candid than the first one. So I'm going to read it. You check it out also if you are interested in Indian politics.